Hi, I'm Catherine Monaco-Douglas from Widowed Not Alone, and today I have Suzanne Schultes from West Islip. Suzanne was in my January 2021 group. She had lost her husband Bobby 4 months. She lost him on September 8th of 2020. Um, Suzanne has been doing some amazing things. One is your blog. What is
Thank you.
the name of your blog?
Grieve-grow.
Okay.
All spelled,
Well, what?
all spelled out. No actual dash, but
Oh, okay. Grief dash grow. Right. And you're an amazing writer. I just have to tell you, when you
thanks.
started writing, I was like, wow, she really articulates what someone feels.
Yeah, unfortunately, something like this really lets you actually get in touch with your feelings. It's weird.
It's good though, because getting those feelings out is so hard for so many people.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt. It was the only thing that actually saved me. And I was like, I had to get it out of my head and it just flowed. It was like no thinking about it. But I think it was very healing in a sense for me to be able to put into words. From what I hear, everybody, that's the feedback that I've gotten, has said, you put into words what I couldn't do and how I feel.
That's
And it
exactly
made me
how
feel
I
like
feel.
alone.
Every time I would read something, I'd be like, right on. That's it.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it feels like. You got it. That's right. Um, so how long is it now that you lost Bobby?
Sunday actually was his 11th month away from me, coming up on the year. So needless to say, I'm very apprehensive and already mentally, physically feeling it. Like, unfortunately, also his birthday is the day before he passed away.
Oh,
So it's like I have his birthday and then his death anniversary the next day. So I honestly, to tell you the truth, been gearing up for this since the 6 month mark.
a lot of people do.
Yeah, because I know that what I've learned through this grief journey is that the anticipation for the holidays, the birthdays, special days. We just celebrated our wedding anniversary, would have been our wedding anniversary last month. If I mentally prepare myself for it and if I get there, the actual day is not bad. It's actually, I think mentally, I just zone out. It's the days before and the days after, my body is just done. I'm like,
The days before, they're like torture.
yeah.
But
So that's
I'm gonna say this one thing to you that I learned from doing groups. And that's when you have like a birthday and the anniversary of the death together, it's big, but it's better together than separated. Like you get it over with in the same week.
Do you want to know how horrible I feel saying that? It's like, I don't want to say I'm grateful in that respect, but I'm like, wow, okay, I get two big, huge things over back to back. Not
One
even
shot.
like day apart, it's like back to back. And I'm like, all right, that's good. And then I got a couple of months before the Christmas holidays and New Year's and all that.
Deal with all that, right?
But I find for myself, and I guess we'll get on it later on, when Bobby first passed, I knew I couldn't do this journey by myself. I knew I couldn't do it. So I knew I had to reach out to anybody and everything and anything that I could grab hold to. And I think for me, it really works. Like I said, from my 6 month mark, I kept gearing on. All right, 12 months is going to be hard. No doubt about it. It's going to be hard. So like, it's always in the back of my mind to get myself there, and it's exhausting. Don't get me wrong, but I feel that I'm preparing myself better for it in that respect.
I think that's the biggest thing, that we don't know what to expect. And the fact that you're bracing yourself. Did you ever have a loss before that you knew to do that? Because I had no clue to do that.
Now, actually, December 2019, Christmas Eve, my dad passed away.
Oh.
And he was in hospice. He'd been battling cancer. You know that it's going to happen. You just don't know when. And I never actually prepared myself. But I tell you, when he passed away, it was tough. Like, my birthday's in January, and like this history with my dad and everything like that. But every birthday he would call me, every birthday, no matter what, so like I didn't prepare. And then when it came to the day, it was like, wow, okay, this is crazy. And then this past March, my mom passed away the exact same way my husband passed away. So it was like reliving everything over and over again.
Oh my
Kind
goodness.
of getting in the way to handle all the big holidays and the big things and know how to prepare myself for it.
And you're amazing how you have been pushing forward. I see that how you're pushing forward with your grief, which some people it's slower. Everyone takes grief differently, but I think you're a little resilient, knowing and listening to some of your past. I think that made you a little bit more. First of all, you're a bodybuilder, which
Yes.
if people haven't noticed that about you right now, I just want to bring that out. How long have you been bodybuilding?
Probably about close to 10 years, 11 years. I've always done something sports related. You know, of course, when the kids were little, I didn't do things as much, but really got serious about it. Really, where I went to start competing about 5 years ago. So that's when it took a totally different turn.
Yeah, and that takes a lot of strength and fortitude to keep going, and that's what helps with grief. That being consistent.
Yes.
I find that like people do the journaling or they do the work and then they stop, and then they say, "I'm not doing good. I'm back where I was," but you're not doing the work. You can't just do it and stop. You got to be consistent.
The day after Bobby passed, and people were probably going to be like, "Are you kidding me?" We have a home gym. I was in there. I get up every morning because my husband was a truck driver. So we get up when everybody's sleeping. He would be up at 2, I'd be up at 3 because we kept our schedule together, go to bed together. I was in there at 3 o'clock in the morning. I probably got maybe like 2 lifts done, but I knew because there was just too many tears. I knew I had to keep routine. I had to keep something consistent. And that's what you said. It's the consistency of doing something. Do I journal as much as I did in the past in the beginning? No, but I've taken on different things that help me in my grief journey because some things get you to the point where you need to be and then something else picks up. Like I draw now. I never thought in a million years I would draw. I draw, I
That's
paint.
awesome.
I do these things.
I'm an artist, so I get it.
And it's crazy, but what got me like with the journaling was the overpowering thoughts in my mind got so much that I knew that I had to grab a piece of paper. Even from the day he passed away, I took my phone and, we all have our notepad in there. And I just started talking to him, writing everything down because I felt if I didn't get it out, from my past, I'm an adult child of alcoholics. I'm also a recovering alcoholic. I know that we're only as sick as the secrets we keep in our heads. So I knew that I had to get these things out, whether it be via talking, paper. And when you're in grief and you're going through the first couple of days, you don't want to talk. I didn't anyway. I didn't want to talk. I wanted to, it was the most surreal, and to tell you the truth, still the most surreal experience because we're talking about the 1 year coming up and I cannot believe where this year went because it feels like just yesterday.
I always say that when people don't understand our grief and they don't understand how much pain we're in, and it's still like it's 11 months, 12 months. I'm like, remember what a year felt like before you lost them, how a whole year felt long. But now that you lost your person, it feels like it was like last month.
Yep. Blink of an eye. Blink of an eye.
Like the year flew by, and you did so many things during the year to try to help yourself with your grief, and it just flew by.
Yes.
When people say to me, I'm 3 years or 4 years, they think I think it's a long time. I don't. To me, it's like I always say, it's like a teaspoon of water in the ocean. It's nothing in the scheme of things, because there is no time in grief. It's like saying, how much do you love someone? There is no limit. It's just limitless, and that's how grief is. It's limitless.
So talking for me was not something that I could do because I couldn't find the words. Everybody kept saying to you, how you doing? How you feeling? Are you okay? I still can't say that I'm okay. I can't say how I'm doing. I don't, I hope to one day.
You're doing.
I'm doing. And that's exactly what I say. I'm doing. Always, that's what I do. And so I wrote and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote, and the feedback and the people that reached out to me, and it was, I used to say to Bobby in the bodybuilding community, because I'm members of a lot of bodybuilding groups, people would text me, email me, message me saying, you don't understand. It's because of you I get up and do this stuff. And I used to say to Bobby, but it's just me, babe. It's just me. He's like, but you're doing things that people don't do. You're saying things that people can't say. And they're thankful for that. And that's what I got with my journaling and with the blog Grieve-Grow, which, you know, turned into, again, reaching out to anything and everybody that I could to help me on this path. Because one of the first things I did was try to join every Facebook group that was grief related, and quickly found out that I did not want to be part of that at all. And quickly deleted all of those groups. And I couldn't find a grief therapist because we were at the tail end of the world was starting to open up a little bit, but we had lost so many people from COVID.
Oh yeah.
Trying to find a grief counselor was exhausting. I finally had a brain smartness and I contacted my EAP through my job because I was still employed, and they put me in contact with therapists. So I didn't have to do anything. So if anybody ever needs an outlet for help with that, contact your EAPs. It's the Employee Assistance Program. They paid for the first few sessions, and I decided to keep working with her. And everything, as much as I hate this saying, everything happens for a reason, because my husband was taken from me, she led me to you, Catherine, and Widow Not Alone. And
that's awesome.
She literally gave me that number. I was on your website by the time our session was over. I had spoken to you and had signed up for January session, and I was just counting down the days to get in there, you know. But
yeah, I'm so happy that you made our group, and and that you trained to become a facilitator as well.
Yes, giving me that opportunity.
Yeah,
and that's another thing. The first meeting, our facilitators, you know, explained the program and said that at the end there'll be captains who wants to volunteer. And that night I emailed Dee and I was like, I volunteer, you know, because I knew I had to keep things on the horizon to keep me going. And every Wednesday night, my group still meets. We have a blast.
That's awesome.
We have outings, we do the things, and it's great. It's great.
It is great. And that's what I didn't have when I lost my husband. And that's why I created it, because my grandmother was widowed young and she was alone her whole life. And there were other people that I knew, like from the neighborhood, all these widows, they were alone for the rest of their lives. It was like, it was a punishment for life. And I was like, I don't want to be alone for the rest of my life. Like,
Yeah.
This is like a horrible feeling. And we need people that understand us, that we could connect with.
Because nobody understands it like a fellow widow, you know.
No.
And as much as this journey has brought the most amazing people in my life, it's so bittersweet because of why we meet each other. The fact that these people will never get to know my husband as the person that he was, have the experience of laughing with him and joking with him. And I don't get to go home and tell him, oh, well, we did this or we did that. And it's tough. It's like the emotional roller coaster you can go through in a day is unbelievable.
That's why everybody's so exhausted.
Yep.
That's the exhausting part of grief. There's so many ups and downs in one day. It's like, and it's true. It's like, but I feel like I get to know who everyone's partner is.
Yes.
Through the sharing. And it's not even how they died. We do a lot of sharing about how their life was. And that's why I remember everyone's spouse's names. Everyone's always shocked. How do you do it? How do you remember everybody's spouse's names? And it's because I get to know who they are through the person. And I think that's what makes our group really special.
Yep.
So I know that you, besides the blogging, you have something else that you're putting together that I think is awesome. And I want you to share that now, like what it is you wanted. What's your next thing?
Okay, my next thing is, like I mentioned before, I am a grateful recovering alcoholic. I just celebrated my 11 years. And
congratulations.
Thank you. When Bobby passed, I was at 10 years, 2 months. And that was the first time in my sobriety journey that I ever wanted to like drink. And everybody was here. They had their White Claws, they had their drinks, they had this. And I remember saying to myself, don't do it, Suzanne, don't do it. Because if you walk down that road, you're not coming back. And you're going to wind up in a way worse spot that you did than you are now. And the grief is just going to get complicated. You're going to, you're not going to grieve the way you're supposed to be grieving. So I didn't pick up, but I also knew from the principles of AA that I could not do this alone. And I needed to reach out, and I needed to get the help. I needed to get support on my side. I came across a very good widow support group that had a sober widows group. So right away, again, me signed up, and it was kind of quiet. So I was like a little disappointed. I was like, okay, what's going on? So I kept posting on it, and I kept posting on it. And one day I just said to myself, you know what? I'm going to throw it out there. I had Zoom because I was doing Zoom meetings with other groups and other people. And I said, I'm going to put it out there that I'm going to do an AA meeting every Monday night. And little by little, more people started showing up. So we have a Monday night meeting. We run it as close to AA as possible. We do, we work a step each month, first of the month. And it's just sober widows, because most people, when they're grieving, can have a glass of wine just to quiet the brain or take the edge off. I can't. And
I couldn't either. I just got to say, it made me depressed.
yeah, well, because
So
alcohol is depressing.
I stopped drinking completely. I used to have wine before my loss, and I had 2 losses, but before my losses, I was able to drink. But after, I just stay away from it. It makes me very depressed.
But again, when you go on a lot of these public support pages, which I'm not belittling, and it's amazing, because when you're in this state, you feel like you're alone. So to have the support is great. But everybody's like, oh, just have a couple glasses of wine. I can't wait to kick back and leave work.
It's all about the partying. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about forgetting. And yes, we do want to forget. I didn't have that option. So I knew that I had to do something positive. So I kept moving forward in my grieving and in my sobriety. I wanted to normalize grieving, because that's not anywhere near where it should be. And I also wanted to destigmatize the sobriety aspect of it, because, oh, you're an alcoholic, you're an addict, you're this, you're that, so it's like a double thing. You can't grieve in peace. You can't drink. Where do you turn? So we still run the meetings. I love my sober wids. I wouldn't know where I would be without them. So my goal is to try to open it up, because I feel that a lot of people that deal with addiction issues might have suffered grief along the way, didn't know how to handle, self-medicated. So I want to really get out there and help people that are grieving, that are sober, that are recovering, that don't have any other resources to do things.
That's awesome, because I see a lot of it over the years, and I'm not, I don't have the tools to help them with it. We recommend a lot of people to go to therapy. You'd be shocked how many people don't go to therapy.
Yeah.
Like sometimes when I register everyone, and I'll say to them, did you ever suffer depression? And they'll say yes. And I'll say, did you do therapy? And they'll say no. And then I'll say, and I'm not judging anyone, I'm just saying that therapy helps so much. If people only knew how much it helped, maybe they would give it a chance,
Yeah.
just like support groups,
I've never been shy of seeing therapists. I've seen therapists my whole entire life, because again, growing up as an adult child of an alcoholic, you have issues. So I'm not gonna lie. You have insecurity, you have abandonment issues. And that was another big thing that I had to deal with when Bobby passed. Was I felt so overwhelmed. But again, I had lost my dad, I had lost my husband, abandonment issues came creeping in. And I wrote a blog about it. I had to separate the losses, and I had to give Bobby his own space and everything else, because here I am, 52 years old, expecting to spend the rest of my life with the man that I found later on in life, very compatible. He was sober too, and he's gone. And now I'm like, oh my God, I've been abandoned. I've been left. And that alone shows and translates to so many different emotions. So I feel like if you don't deal with the issues, whether it's grief, whether it's something else, when you're younger or it happens, and then you decide to self-medicate, it's just a lifetime of things that shouldn't have to be. You could have it much easier,
What you did was very, very smart, about separating your losses. And that's where the grief becomes complicated. When people have more than one loss, they become overwhelmed because they're not over the first loss, and then the second loss comes and they're just overwhelmed with all the loss. And that's where therapy really helps a lot of people to separate that. So they could talk about one person, deal with that one loss first. So I do a lot of grief coaching one-on-one, but when I see someone has like those complications, I always say, well, no, you need to go see a therapist. This is more than coaching. This is about your mental health, to
Yes.
separate it all.
And it's funny you should say that, because as I mentioned before, my mother passed in March. And again, another complicated story in itself with mother-daughter relationship. But I literally have not even grieved her, because I can't give her the space to grieve until I can get further along in the grief of my husband. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. But I know that I have to separate it. And
you have to deal with it at some point.
without a doubt, it's there. It's definitely
It's
on the
there.
list.
It's funny how we could take it and put it on a back burner and not deal with it, but eventually it's going to come out. So we know we have
No.
to deal with it.
Oh, I 100% know I have to deal with it, but I have to be at least in a frame of mind to be able to deal with Bobby's passing on a consistent basis, and then give her the respect to grieve for her loss. It's
Right.
I don't want to belittle anybody, but I
Right.
also know that taking on too much, because again, with my mom, there's a whole other set of issues that I have to deal with. So it's not like it's just she passed away, I have to grieve her loss, I have to deal with that, and I don't want to, or I'm hiding from it. There's abandonment issue, there's other things that I know that I have to. But again, going back to the addiction and the sober part of it, there's need, and I don't think that there's enough need out there for support for people that are grieving, that are sober, or
Agree.
yeah,
Agree.
even
Because
all the-
drinking's the avoidance.
yep.
There
Yep.
are people who drink every weekend, and that's their avoidance from dealing with their grief. But when do you say to yourself, I have a drinking problem? When
Yeah.
you're going out every single weekend drinking, at what point do you say you have a problem?
And I have the drinking problem because I'm crushed, because my person passed away, and I don't know how to handle it, and I don't know what I'm supposed to do. And not that I can say, well, this is what you're supposed, because I don't want to give advice, but I can lead you through my journey and say, these are the steps that helped me. Like even all the books, like Catherine, I literally bought Amazon app of every grieving book that you could ever imagine, every book that you can imagine. And I'm looking for sober grieving, I'm looking for daily meditations. And when I started the AA group, I was like, I would love it if, because in the program, there's books called Daily Meditation. You read like a quote and you think on it, you journal on it, So we would open up every meeting with that. And I said, a lot of them had, everything was like higher power, God. And unfortunately, sometimes a lot of people, when they lose somebody, they might not be in the best terms with God, because they're like asking why, or this or that.
They're not ready to hear it.
Yeah. And I was the same way, and I was blessed to be able to talk to the deacon that spoke at Bobby's wake, and it was amazing that I spoke to him, and I was very grateful for it. But a lot of times you want like just a meditation book. So one of the guys in the group said, well, Suzanne, I think you've been tasked with writing a meditation book for sober grieving. And I'm like, okay, it's on the list.
Yeah,
so I don't know how to do it.
Absolutely.
I'm going to try.
I'm going to say that there's 2 books that I read, one recently that I feel like might contribute to what happens when we have things in our childhood that affect us later on. And that was the book, What Happened to You?
Oh yeah, read it.
By Oprah Winfrey. Yeah.
Yep.
And then the other book is The Body Keeps the Score.
Yes.
Which when you said to me, I feel it coming, I'm like, oh yeah, that's in the book. I mean, I know that, but when the doctor says it, it's like, yes, they're agreeing with us, and it's not always about like, and I'm sure for you, this was a problem, like taking antidepressants because of your history, like you couldn't do it. You had to do it, without doing that, right?
To me, grief is not an illness. It's not a disease, so.
I've been saying that for years, but nobody wants to listen.
You need something to get you over the initial 100%, 100%. But I talk to people, and I hear people that are on it for the rest of their lives. And unless you have a pre-existing mental issue that you've
Correct.
already been, or you need it, then fine. I have no problem with that. And if I needed to go on it, there's really no rule or anything in the program that says I can't take an antidepressant. Old timers will say, no, sorry, you're not clean. But, you know, unfortunately, there are people that do have, with sobriety, it's very with other illnesses. You just don't, most times you have some kind of mental health, depression, anxiety, it could be anything. So there's comorbidity, you know, so, but everybody said, well, go to the doctor, get something to cheer you up. My husband died. There's nothing that's going to cheer you up.
No, I didn't take antidepressants too.
It's not an illness. It's not a disease. Sobriety, alcoholism, addiction, I firmly believe, and I am also a CASAC T. I went to school. I am a chemical and alcohol drug specialist. Is considered, and it's in the DSM-5. It's a disease. It's an illness, but grief isn't. It's love.
No. Yeah,
you
it's
know,
the pain of losing someone you love. And I didn't take antidepressants when Larry first died because I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to see if my sons were suicidal or something like that. I wanted to be clear. And already I felt foggy from the grief. And then 2 years later, I had to sell my house and they put me on an antidepressant for a couple of weeks. And I felt it so strong, I had to get off.
yeah,
It made me not care about my grief, not care about my move, not care about the dishes in the sink or making the bed, all the things that I care about. My work, I couldn't even do my work because I didn't care, you know, so I can't live my life not caring. I have to care about things. That's who I am. I don't
Yeah.
want to stop being who I am. And, you know, you can get through this with the right support.
yes, without a doubt.
You absolutely can, but you have to be consistent like you are. And you have to keep doing things to help yourself. Nobody's going to come in and save us.
But I tell you, no, nobody is. And I have to tell you, I give all the credit to AA because that's a program of people helping people, you know, and I knew from the get-go that I had to, Catherine, I went crazy reaching out to everybody and anybody that I could. And they go support group. I have 2 other support groups that I run, you know, that are not, you know, AA. I would like to branch out and be able to help people that lose siblings, spouse, you know, kids, teenagers, because when I became a CASAC, my field of specialty wanted to be adolescents because I wanted to get them, and I wanted to get kids that were having issues with alcohol or drugs before they got older.
Oh my
And
goodness. We can so use this. Yeah.
Spent a lifetime living however they lived. And I've lost people to addiction. I've lost friends. I've had people that have lost others to suicide, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles. There's a spot for it and it needs to be, you know.
Well,
So,
I have to say this, like when I started my group, I saw a need. I saw there was nothing social for young people with loss. I saw that there were too many rules that were out there, and their groups are, they may be wonderful, but they weren't for me. I didn't want to sit there listening to everyone's losses. I saw a need for something different. And look, a lot of people come to me and they were recommended by word of mouth. For years, that's all we had was word of mouth, and that's how we grew. But I feel like everyone's got to find what's right for them. But when we see that there's a need, that's when we got to step up. So somebody called me and said, it's 10 years since her loss. Can I come to your group? And I'm like, I'm sorry, I need the spots for the people who are recent. I can't take somebody that's 10 years. And how would it be for somebody 10 years to be with someone who's 2 weeks or 3 weeks? Wouldn't that be a setback if you're 10 years? So that's a need. So I emailed her back. I said, I stepped up when I saw a need for what I wanted to do, what I didn't have. The first 3 months to me was the hardest.
Sure.
If you see this as a need, then maybe you need to step up.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah.
You know, like I can't do it all. Everybody's got to step up for what they feel there's a need. And I think there's a definite need for people who lean towards alcohol to help them avoid the pain of grief and try to drink it away, because you know we can't.
No, without a doubt. And even sober people that have many years under the belt, or maybe only have 2 or 3 months under the belt, and they unfortunately lose their spouse, you know, so they don't go and pick that drink up like I almost did that night. because it could have been so easy for me, Catherine, to say, you know what,
Oh,
give me
yeah.
give me a Jack and Coke, and
Right.
I have an excuse. My husband passed.
Right.
I got 100% foolproof excuse to do it, but I
Right.
chose not to. And
Right.
I'll tell you the truth, sometimes it was hard because if you talk to anybody that knows me, I was blessed with my sobriety gift, and I would not give that up for anything, because I knew if I lost, I'm not coming back. I'm going to just,
Well, there's people make excuses for things. I always say that. So like I'm doing this 15 years. I never missed a night. Like I knock on wood, I haven't been sick. So I
yeah,
never miss a night. The only time I ever missed a night is if I'm going on vacation and I get coverage. But
yeah,
I never miss a night. Like this is something I have no excuses. I want to do what I'm doing,
yeah. And
you
I feel
know?
like because of his passing, this is the purpose that I'm to do. Like I'm
Yep.
searching, I've given the direction, and everything is falling into place. I still don't know exactly how to do it all, but I'm
It's
working on
okay.
it.
I didn't know that when I started. I had no idea that my group was going to grow into what it grew into. And I just didn't know what I was doing. I just, I kind of felt like it was a divine intervention, although
Yeah,
we don't put religion in the groups at all, but I just felt like it was like some kind of divine direction, like directing me. You remember the cartoon Mr. Magoo when he
yes,
steps on the plank and then the next plank comes this way? I always felt like the planks just kept directing me and I didn't have any direction on my own,
yeah,
but it kept telling me, you got to go this way, you got to do this. And it just grew
yeah.
to what it is.
And I wholeheartedly agree with you, because even with the blog, which is the first thing that I started, I always wanted to like write a book, because I figured I had so many great, interesting stories growing up as an alcoholic child, and the things that I went through. But I never put pen to paper. And then when this happened, and I was like, wow, and the feedback, everybody's like, oh my God, you're writing, it's amazing. You should write a book. You should do this. You should do that. And it was just, everything just snowballed into something else. And then I said to myself, well, at this point, if I have to go through the most painful thing in my life, and if I tell you, I've been through a lot, I've unfortunately suffered a lot of things in my life, there's going to be a purpose for it. And this is my purpose.
And I think
So,
that's awesome.
and as Bobby would always joke to me, I'm the research queen. I will do whatever I have to do to make it work, and to get it
Mhm.
where it needs to be. And just to help, because you know what? I feel the best. If you said to me, Captain, I need help, Suzanne, I need help in the gym. All right, what time do you want me to be there? When do you want me to go? We're going to do this, we're going to do that, and we're going to do that, you know? So I just feel helping others helps me. So if I can help just one person on their grief journey, sobriety journey, combination sober grief journey, then I'm
You're in. And
doing what I.
and I get it because that always used to be my motto. If I only help one person, if I have a group of 10 and I get to one and I help that one person really get it and start helping themselves, then I feel like I accomplished something. I want to help the whole 10 of them, but I
Yeah,
always feel like if I can't help them all, at least let me help one. Because
one.
sometimes you start a group, people drop out and
Sure.
you kind of take it personal and you're like, what did I do wrong? But now as the years have gone on, I don't take it personal. I think they're not ready
They're
here,
not ready. No,
they're just
it's
not
like
ready.
it's like somebody who wants to stop drinking. You have to ultimately be ready. You can lead the horse to the water, but if they don't want to drink it, they don't want to
That's
drink it.
right. That's
But
right.
going back to the woman that you were talking about the 10 years trying to get into the group, I had a woman that I talked to, I work with in a spiritual group, and she took the time out to send me an email, and she said I had done previous podcasts, which and she says, I just want to thank you. She lost her husband, I'm going to say 22 years ago. And she said, listening to your pod, she said, I did not face my grief when he passed away. I just kept moving, kept going, and had a small child. She says, I listened to your podcast and it opened up so much for me that I'm dealing with now. And I am so very grateful. She says, but I do wish I would have met you 20 years ago, because I wouldn't be where I am right now. And I'd
Well,
be further along in my grief journey.
mhm.
So
20 years ago is when I lost my Larry, and we didn't have the resources we
yeah,
have today. We didn't have social media at all. So where did we connect? We had pages. We didn't even have cell phones. We didn't
yeah.
have Zoom. I didn't even own a computer. I had a computer like a couple of years after he
We
passed.
had landlines.
So, yeah, really, we had landline. I don't even have a landline anymore. But
Nor do
so
I.
we didn't have the resources that we have today. So that's why I say to the widows that come in, I had nothing.
Yeah.
I didn't even have therapy. I went to a therapist and she closed her eyes. She wasn't a grief therapist. She shouldn't have been doing therapy. So I didn't even have the therapy that I needed. And it was like a funny thing, like when we're in grief, like we can't think straight. So if that person doesn't work out, we think all therapists are no good.
Yeah.
Like it's like if you eat a bad piece of salmon, you're like, I'm done with salmon for the rest of my life. I don't even know what that is, but we
Not
do
that,
it.
but the amount of energy it takes to pick up the phone and make a call and have to do that when you're in early grief, even middle grief, it could be exhausting.
It is
I will write an
exhausting.
email to no end. I will text, but to pick up the phone, I have a list of things that I have to call because it's still hard sometimes because it's exhausting. And then you have to explain everything and you have to go through it. That's why when I initially gave up trying to find one on my own, I went through my EAP at work and they took care of everything. And I was like, thank God. And everything happened for a reason because she led me to you guys, Widow Not Alone. She led me to, she was an amazing therapist. She really was. She was good. She was good.
That's great when you meet someone like that, because that's a good start for you. So that's why I always say to everyone, you have so much more than I did when I started. You have our group, you have therapy. We give a list of names of therapists.
Yeah.
You have social media, Zoom, you
Yeah.
have Instagram, you got Facebook groups, whatever it may be. There's ways of connecting, which we
Yeah.
didn't have years ago, which this woman couldn't find anyone, like I'm sure, like I felt, to connect with.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
would take someone that was in their 30s or 40s and put them in a group with 80-year-olds. There wasn't any place. I still hear people say, I did a group, but they were all like so old. And I really like to do another group with people my age.
Yeah. I actually did a group and I have older women in a group, but I actually have grown to love them. And I think that they're for such strength that people that
yeah,
could be because I was actually just thinking about it this afternoon when I was driving home and I said to myself, these women are all in their 70s and 80s and they're not giving up. Every day they're getting up, they're doing what they got to do. And here I am, 52, saying to myself, I don't want to do it's just you get in a mope every once in a while. And it picked me up because I'm like, they're amazing. They're amazing that they're doing this stuff.
It's if they could do it. It's like when I used to run the marathon years ago. I would be running the marathon. I'd be struggling to get, and I'd see some old guy who was like not even running flat on his feet.
Yes.
And he was passing me up. And I was like, damn, if he could do it, I'm going to do it.
I just ran a 10K on Sunday and my legs are killing me for it. But
you see people older than you passing you up and you're like, damn.
I was getting to the finish line and there was two older gentlemen in front of me and I'm like, put the pedal to the metal, Suzanne, because you are going up first. But it gives you inspiration and it gives you inspiration.
That motivates you. Yeah. Others motivate us. They inspire us. And you inspire me. I think what you're doing is wonderful.
I think what you're doing is wonderful. And if I could do a quarter of what you've done in my lifetime to help somebody, I'd be very thankful.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I appreciate you today. I want to thank you for spending this time with us so that maybe someone will see this. And where would they reach out to you? Like how would they be able to contact you?
I have Instagram, is grieve-grow, again, all spelled out. I have a Facebook page, grieve-grow, so they can reach out to me there. And
good.
I don't have a website up yet, but I will.
Okay. Yeah, that took me time too, but you'll get it. And then, when you start growing the groups, you'll have pictures of people that you could put in there to show testimonies, which is great. So thank you again and have a great day.
All right, you too.